In the years following the Great War, from 1918 to 1919, New Orleans was a city of vibrant contradictions. It was the Crescent City, the birthplace of jazz, a bustling port where the air hung thick with the scent of magnolia and the humid promise of the Mississippi River. The nights were alive with the sounds of brass bands parading through the streets, of dance halls and corner saloons filled with the new electrifying rhythms that would soon define an age. This was a city of life, of celebration, of a cultural fusion that drew from African American communities, Creole traditions, and a dozen other ethnic groups who called its crowded neighborhoods home. But beneath this lively musical exterior, another darker current flowed. It was a city of deep-seated tensions and prejudices, where a climate of xenophobia festered, aimed squarely at the thousands of Italian immigrants, particularly Sicilians, who were carving out new lives for themselves. They were seen as outsiders, a swarthy and undesirable character, in the words of one New Orleans judge, and their growing economic success bred resentment. It was into this social tinderbox that a shadow fell, a nameless, faceless terror who would stalk the city's back alleys and quiet streets. He was a phantom who would turn the most mundane household objects, a backdoor panel, a family's own axe, into instruments of unimaginable horror. For 18 months, from May of 1918 to October of 1919, New Orleans would not be known for its music, but for its silence, the dark, silent terror of a killer who came to be known only as the Axeman. The terror began on the night of May 23, 1918. Joseph Maggio, an Italian grocer, and his wife Catherine had retired for the evening in their apartment above their shop on the corner of Upper Line and Magnolia Streets. In an adjoining apartment, Joseph's brothers, Jake and Andrew, were settling in after a night of drinking to celebrate Andrew's acceptance into the Navy. In the early morning hours, they were roused by what they later described as groaning noises coming through the wall. When they went to investigate, they found the back door of their brother's home strangely violated. A lower wooden panel had been expertly chiseled out and placed neatly on the floor nearby, the killer's calling card. What they found inside was a scene of pure butchery. Joseph and Catherine lay in their bed, soaked in blood. Their throats had been cut with a straight razor with such ferocity that Catherine's head was nearly severed from her body. As if this barbarity were not enough, the killer had then taken an axe, the Maggio's own axe, and bludgeoned them both. Joseph was somehow still breathing, but died minutes after his brothers found him. The police investigation that followed was confused and flawed from the very start. Robbery was immediately ruled out. Money and valuables were left untouched in plain sight. In the apartment, investigators found a set of the killer's bloody clothes, suggesting he had changed into a clean set of Joseph Maggio's before fleeing the scene. This act went beyond simple murder. It was a profound psychological violation. By using the family's own tools and even wearing the victim's clothes, the killer didn't just invade their home. He momentarily inhabited their life before extinguishing it, transforming their sanctuary into an armory for their own destruction. The police, unequipped to handle such a seemingly motiveless crime, quickly focused on the most convenient suspect, Andrew Maggio. They interrogated him for hours, questioning how he could have been so intoxicated as to not hear a killer chiseling his way into the home next door. The investigation was so hasty that a complete search of the premises was not initially performed. The blood-caked razor used to slit the couple's throats was only discovered later, discarded on a neighboring lawn. This initial failure to grasp the nature of their predator, this reliance on conventional motives in the face of an unconventional fiend, set the stage for the entire bungled investigation to come. Andrew was eventually released, and the police were left with no leads, only the chilling signature of a killer who left nothing behind but bodies and a neatly removed door panel. The Maggio murders were not an isolated incident. They were the opening act in a horrifying reign of terror that gripped the city's Italian-American community. A clear and terrifying pattern emerged. The Axeman exclusively targeted Italian grocers and their families, striking in the dead of night with a brutal, consistent methodology. Just a month after the Maggios were killed, on June 27th, another grocer, Louis Bisuma, and his mistress, Harriet Lowe, were attacked in the rooms behind their store. Both were bludgeoned with an axe, and before succumbing to her injuries 2 months later, Lowe made a bizarre deathbed accusation, claiming Bissouma was a German spy, a strange and confusing detail that only deepened the mystery. The attacks continued, each one adding a new layer of fear. On August 5th, an 8 months pregnant woman, identified only as Mrs. Schneider, awoke to a dark figure standing over her bed. She was bashed repeatedly in the face, but miraculously survived and later gave birth to a healthy baby girl. But the Axeman's cruelty reached its apex on the night of March 10th, 1919, when he crossed the Mississippi River into the small suburb of Gretna. There he broke into the home of another Italian grocer, Charles Cortimiglia. He attacked Charles and his wife Rosie, leaving them both with severe head injuries. In a crib nearby, their 2-year-old daughter Mary was killed instantly by a single savage blow to the back of her neck. The murder of a child sent a new wave of panic through the community. Panic-stricken men began staying up all night, armed, to guard their sleeping families. The Axeman was no longer just a murderer. He was a predator hunting the most vulnerable. To understand why the Axeman chose his victims with such precision, one must understand the New Orleans of 1919. The city was a hotbed of anti-immigrant sentiment, and no group was more targeted than the Sicilians. Many had arrived as cheap labor for sugarcane and cotton plantations, but through relentless work, they had begun to achieve a measure of success. A common path to prosperity was to save enough money to open a small corner grocery store, and by the early 20th century, Italians were coming to dominate the business. This success, however, bred deep resentment from the established white population, who viewed the swarthy Sicilians with suspicion and contempt, often considering them not white at all, nothing but black Dagos. This prejudice was institutionalized. In 1891, following the murder of police chief David Hennessy, a mob had stormed the city jail and lynched 11 Sicilian men who had been accused of the crime, cementing in the public mind a permanent link between Italians and organized crime. The press and the public frequently conflated the concepts of the vendetta, the mafia, and black hand extortion, seeing a criminal conspiracy behind every corner. The Axeman weaponized this societal prejudice. He seemed to know, either consciously or instinctively, that attacks on Italian grocers would be filtered through this lens of bigotry. The police would be slower to react, the public would feel a degree of emotional distance from the othered victims, and investigators would waste precious time chasing phantom mob connections. This systemic bias had devastating consequences. In the aftermath of the horrific attack on the Cortimiglia family, the Gretna authorities, led by Sheriff Louis Marrero, ignored the Axeman's clear modus operandi. Instead of searching for a serial killer, they settled on a narrative that fit their prejudices, a local feud. They arrested the Cortimiglia's elderly neighbors, Orlando Giordano and his 17-year-old son, Frank. With no evidence against them, Marrero had the still-recovering Rosie Cortimiglia arrested as a material witness and held her in jail until she signed an affidavit implicating the Giordanos. It was a coerced and unreliable testimony, yet it was enough. Orlando was sentenced to life in Prague. In March of 1919, just days after the murder of little Mary Cortimiglia, the Axeman escalated his campaign of terror from physical violence to psychological warfare. A letter arrived at the offices of the New Orleans newspaper, the Times-Picayune. Dated Hell, March 13, 1919, and addressed to esteemed mortal, it was a missive of pure theatrical arrogance. It was published on Sunday, March 16th, and its contents sent a chill through those who read it. "They have never caught me, and they never will," the author boasted. "They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether which surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman." He mocked the police investigation as so utterly stupid so as to amuse not only me, but his satanic majesty, and claimed a close relationship with the angel of death, threatening that he could slay thousands if he wished. By claiming a supernatural identity, the author performed a masterstroke of terror. He removed himself from the realm of the solvable. You cannot fingerprint a demon. You cannot arrest a spirit from hell. He was transforming himself from a man into a myth. And then he delivered his ultimatum. Now, to be exact, at 12:15 o'clock, earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I'm very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night will get the axe. It was not just a threat, it was a command for citywide participation in his twisted game. He was forcing the entire city of New Orleans to acknowledge his power and obey his bizarre, demonic whim. The night of Tuesday, March 19, 1919, was one of the strangest in New Orleans history. The city's signature art form, jazz, was transformed from a sound of joy into a desperate ward against death. According to the popular legend, the city erupted in a cacophony of sound. Every dance hall was filled to capacity. Professional and amateur bands played in hundreds of house parties across the city, their music spilling out of open windows into the humid night air. Those without access to live musicians blasted phonograph records, hoping the tinny sound would be enough to appease the demons said to be stalking their streets. One enterprising composer, Joseph John de Villa, even hastily wrote and published a song for the occasion titled "The Mysterious Axeman's Jazz, Don't Scare Me Papa." Its sheet music cover depicting a terrified family frantically playing music. For some, it was a night of genuine terror, a vigil kept to the rhythm of a frantic jazz beat. For others, it was simply an excuse for the loudest party on record. The clock ticked past midnight, then toward the Axeman's appointed hour of 12:15 a.m. The music played on, a city holding its breath. And then, nothing. The night passed without a single attack, without a single murder. However, the popular image of a city universally paralyzed by fear may obscure a more complex reality. The Axeman's letter was not, in fact, front-page news. It was buried on page 18 of the Sunday paper. Some contemporary sources indicate that many New Orleanians ignored the letter entirely, and those who did play jazz were ridiculed by their neighbors for giving in to a sensational prank. This suggests the legend of Jazz Night has been amplified over time. The truth may be less cinematic. A city where some were terrified, many were opportunistically festive, and a significant portion, particularly the non-Italian majority who felt safe from the killer's blade, were simply unconcerned. The gap between the historical event and the enduring legend is a testament to the power of a good, terrifying story. With the Axeman now a figure of national infamy, the pressure on the police was immense, yet they had no credible leads. The popular theory of a mafia or black hand conspiracy was largely dismissed by the lead investigators. New Orleans detective John D'Antonio, an expert on such matters, argued that a professional hitman would not have so frequently left survivors as the Axeman often did. He and Superintendent Frank Mooney were convinced they were hunting a single deranged individual, a murderous degenerate who gloats over blood, a real-life Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Over the decades, one name has emerged as the most compelling and most controversial suspect: Joseph Mumfre. The story is the stuff of pulp fiction. In December 1921, 2 years after the Axeman's last murder, a man named Joseph Mumfre, who also used the aliases Manfra and Monfre, was shot and killed on a street in Los Angeles. His killer was a woman named Esther Pepitone, the widow of Mike Pepitone, the Axeman's final confirmed victim. When interrogated, Esther allegedly claimed that Mumfre was the man who had murdered her husband. The story seemed to provide the perfect, dramatic conclusion to the mystery. Here was the Axeman unmasked at last, brought to justice by the hand of a vengeful widow. Further investigation seemed to support the theory. Mumfre had a criminal record in New Orleans and was reportedly the leader of a blackmailing gang that preyed on local Italians. The timeline of the attack seemed to align with periods when he was not in prison. For many, the case was closed. But the neat, satisfying case against Joseph Mumfre unravels under scrutiny. The story of the avenging widow, repeated for a century by crime buffs and historians, is built on a foundation of misreported facts. A closer look at the original newspaper articles from 1921 reveals a crucial inconsistency. By the time she shot Mumfre, Esther Pepitone had remarried and was known as Esther Albano. She killed Mumfre not because he had murdered her first husband, Mike Pepitone, but because she believed he was connected to the mysterious disappearance of her second husband, Angelo Albano. Over decades of retelling, the two stories became conflated into one, creating a compelling but fictional narrative. The endurance of this flawed theory reveals more about our collective need for a clean, dramatic ending than it does about the Axeman's true identity. We want the story to be true because it provides closure where, in reality, none exists. With the prime suspect effectively debunked, the investigation is left exactly where it was in 1919, at a dead end. After the brutal murder of Mike Pepitone on October 27, 1919, the attacks simply stopped. The Axeman, whoever he was, vanished as mysteriously as he had first appeared. There was no final confrontation, no deathbed confession, no discovery that could bring the case to a close. There was only silence. The killer's ultimate victory was not his body count, but his complete and total disappearance. By never being caught, he ensured he would never be reduced to a man with mundane motives. He remains a phantom, a demon from hell, precisely because he was never unmasked. His escape from justice was an escape into legend. The Axeman of New Orleans was never identified. He was never caught. And his motives remain a subject of pure, chilling speculation. Was he a lone sadist, driven by a lust for murder? Was he motivated by a xenophobic hatred of successful Italian immigrants? Or was he, as some have suggested, not one man at all but a series of copycat killers? The questions are as terrifying as they are unanswerable. He has become a permanent and menacing fixture in the folklore of New Orleans, a ghost story grounded in the terrifying reality of his crimes. His legend has been immortalized in novels, in songs, and on screen, a testament to our enduring fascination with the monsters who walk among us and the mysteries that remain buried in the dark, silent corners of history. He terrorized a city, manipulated its culture, and then vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a handful of brutalized bodies and a single, taunting letter from a place he called hell. The silence he left in his wake has lasted for over a century, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are never solved, and some demons are never laid to rest. The identity of the Axeman remains one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. What is your theory? Was he a supernatural demon as his letter claimed? A lone, deranged killer? Or was the entire affair the work of multiple people? Let us know your thoughts and speculations in the comments below. If you found this journey into one of history's darkest chapters compelling, please like this video and subscribe to The Dark Silent for more deep dives into the stories that haunt our past.